Welcome to the College Admissions Process Podcast presented by Prep Expert. Prep Expert offers live online SAT and ACT courses with the best score guarantees, instructors, and curriculum. Go to prepexpert.com to guarantee your child's success. Welcome to the CAP, the College Admissions Process Podcast. I am your host, John Durante, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you today Dr. Patricia Peek, who's the Dean of Admission at Fordham University. Dr. Peek, so great to have you here today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's so good to be here with you today.
It's awesome to have such a great school like Fordham University represented. You're about an hour away from where I live, so I'm excited about this one, Doc. So what could you tell us about Fordham University that makes it so appealing for so many students to want to apply and ultimately attend?
Well, Fordham is such a unique place, and it's unique for three reasons. Number one, it's in New York City, and I think the draw of being in an international city, really at one of the world's centers, is amazing. But it's also a Jesuit university, meaning it is a place that really focuses on small classes, very low student to teacher ratio, and caring for the students. So imagine being in a major city, but coming back to a place on campus where everybody knows you and you can really be an individual. And then I think the final thing is that we are a university, two campuses, a campus in Manhattan, a campus in the Bronx, a campus in central London, a center for environmental studies in Armonk, New York. Just so many opportunities for students to have different experiences, and multiple colleges, liberal arts colleges at both the Rose Hill and Lincoln Center campus and our Gabelli School of Business at both campuses.
Well, that's terrific. Thank you for the overview. And I know that you mentioned the Jesuit education. What could you tell me about the core values of that Jesuit education?
Certainly. And there are 27 Jesuit colleges and universities in the United States. We're not affiliated with each other, but we're loosely affiliated through the Jesuit network. And what's consistent in all of our experiences is that the student comes first, so that care for the whole person. And we use a Latin term for that, cura personalis. But what that really means is we try to treat a student holistically, heart, mind, body. We want students to really be fulfilling themselves and exploring their potential. And we also call that the magis, or the more. And so in Jesuit education, students are really pushed, but they're not pushed and kind of left out there. They're pushed and supported. So it's academic rigor, support, and personalized attention. And there is a real sense of students and community and people for others. So that idea of service learning, being stewards in the world, being global citizens, that makes up those three core tenets. And they manifest themselves really uniquely at Fordham, where you do that in one of the world's greatest cities.
Well, that's awesome. And yes, New York is definitely one of the world's greatest cities. And I love how you talked about cura personalis, which is really treating the students holistically, mind, body, and soul. And so that's why I know that so many students that are there, and I know how happy they are because of that community that you foster. I was curious, the overall number of applications schools are receiving are on the rise thanks to many schools going test optional and the ease to which to apply using things like the Common App. With an increase in applications, how do you determine how many students to accept, waitlist, or even deny when you don't necessarily know how many of these applicants will actually attend if accepted?
Certainly. And I think that's a real challenge for many colleges. And it started even before test optional with the rise of the Common Application. So applying to college has gotten much easier than maybe when you and I applied to college.
That's right.
But and that ease is tremendous because we want that access. We want students to be able to look at a wide array of colleges. But that also means they may be applying to colleges that they have little or no information about. And so they may be really casting a very, very wide net. And so colleges have to think about what have been their historical trends and patterns of, if their applications at a certain level, how many students to admit to get to their class size, which may change a little bit every year. And also, institutions change with their goals and they may have new programs that they need to fill. So it's really a matter of kind of assessing uh, what classes you need to have, what programs you need to have students in, and then looking to see traditionally over time how many students do you admit and how many students actually come. So it's really a lot of analysis, but I always worry about students. There's a reality in that, but I also worry that students may not think that we're looking for also the individual and that right match. And so that's the other balance, not only getting our class and having the students there, but having the students that we know are going to be successful. So that's the other piece. There's really a lot that goes on in an admission season.
Well, you mentioned many things, including historical trends and class size. I was just curious, what is your institutional priority in terms of how many students you're looking to admit to make up that freshman class? And could you give us a ballpark number in terms of how many applications you actually receive?
Sure. So for the last several years, I would say we hover between 43 to 45,000 applications in a given year. And because we have all of these different colleges and campuses, the class size overall anywhere between 24 and 2,500 students. But it's also which students might be in which colleges, which campuses, and some of our specialized programs. So we don't have many direct admission programs, but we do have two, and that is our theater and dance programs, which are audition programs. And so they have different admission rates, different application pools, because they're highly, highly selective.
Understood. So I just want to repeat that again. You get about 43 to 45,000 applications for a freshman class of approximately 24 to 2,500. And I
Mhm.
mentioned that because sometimes a student is denied, right, or put on that wait list. And they say, okay, what did I do wrong? Was it my essay? Maybe I didn't have enough activities. And I just like to share those numbers so that people understand that, if you look at the first, let's say 25% of your students that do not get admitted, their profiles are probably not that different than the students that were admitted, except that you have that institutional priority where, your freshman class is at 2,500. That's your number, that's your size, that's what fits. So anything else that you want to add to that? Because again, a lot of times when a student is denied, they feel that it's definitely something that they did.
Well, and absolutely no. If you've done your research and you have looked on a school's website like Fordham's and said, okay, they're sharing what an average GPA is. Am I in a range? They're telling me that they want to see certain courses with certain levels of academic rigor. Have I been pushing myself, challenging myself? And test optional, and we're truly test optional, we still give the middle 50% range for our admitted students. So, will submitting testing help me or will it not help me? So,
Hmm.
being very, doing your research and being very discerning about what schools you're putting in as a fit is important. But even if you do all of that, as you said, many of us have applicant pools that most of the candidates are qualified, but we're not going to have room for all of them. And so that's why we have a wait list, and that's why we have denials. But it's also why we have transfer students,
Hmm.
because sometimes if you don't make it that first time around, or if you were admitted and don't choose the school, you might come back again a little bit later.
Hmm. Well, that's a great point, and I appreciate that. And let's unpackage the overall application a little bit more. I know you touched upon a few things like the transcript and being test optional. So, the transcript itself is definitely the most important part of the academic portion of the application, as it shows 4 years of rigor, hopefully, ramps that you've built, courses that you've selected. So, Doctor, can you walk us through what you're looking for when reviewing an applicant's transcript? And does it differ based on the student's intended major?
Yes, I would say so. So, what usually happens is for most programs, we are looking just overall at the student's application. But for, let's say, the Gabelli School of Business, we're going to add another layer of math preparation. And so, the first thing we want to do is really unpack the entire high school transcript, trend in grades, GPA, trend in courses, trend over time. We want to see steady or upward trend in the grades through the senior year. We'll see your first semester senior year if you're applying
Hmm.
ED2 or regular decision. We'll talk about that later. But we want to see a steady or upward trend in grade. Why? Because the closer you get to college, we want to know that your preparation is getting you closer to the level you need to be successful here. So a trend in grades will really tell us if you're moving closer to being prepared or if something's happening where you need more time before you're prepared. And then if a student submits testing, we want to know, is that confirming what we're seeing or is it telling a different story? And if it's telling a different story, we have to really kind of unpack that a little bit more. Is it telling us a student has potential to do more, but it's not happening in the classroom? Or is the testing a little bit lower, but we're thinking, but the student performs in the classroom? We usually prefer the latter. Classroom performance is prime. That's the primacy for us. And then we want to read the essay. And the essay has to be well written. The essay has to be reflective of who the student is. So when we get back to this idea of 44,000 applications, we can't meet everybody. The essay is our way of meeting the student. So putting your individual voice in there is critical, the authentic self. And that's where I'll anticipate any questions about artificial intelligence. Great for brainstorming, great for idea generation, not great for authenticity and your own voice. So we really want students to think about, again, how to wisely use that as a teaching tool and a learning tool, but to be your authentic self, because that's how you make yourself stand out in a pool that is very competitive and qualified. And then we will look at letters of recommendation, we'll look at activities, we'll look at leadership. We want to see consistency over time. We want to see that students are committed to different things. So we know the difference between things that just fill up the activities list and things that are meaningful.
Well, I appreciate that you mentioned AI and that you shouldn't use it to write your essay, students, because it will not present the essence of who you are as a person. And we talk about it all the time. The transcript, very important that you understand that that's the rigor, the ramps that you built, the courses that you took, and the grades that you received over your 4 years, your activity sheet, obviously what you did outside of the classroom. That essay is your voice. Like Dr. Peek just said, that's how they get to know the 45,000 students that apply. They can't meet everyone individually, but reading your essay, that's how they're going to get to know you. So use AI to brainstorm, perhaps to help you generate ideas, but certainly do not use it to write your essay because although it might spit out something that's grammatically correct, it's not going to show off the essence of who you are as a person. So, Dr. Peek, let's unpackage the essay a little bit more. Obviously, it's an important part of the overall application as it provides, again, an opportunity for the students to have their voices heard. Can you share an example of a college essay that left an impression on you? And what advice would you provide prospective students in terms of what to think of when preparing to write those essays?
Absolutely. So for many years, I was the primary application reader for our dance program. And dancers typically have a shared experience that got them into being interested in dance. And it's oftentimes the most accessible of the ballets, and that's the Nutcracker. And
Hmm.
so for many years, I would read many essays about the Nutcracker. And so you can imagine there is only so much that you can say about that particular ballet. And there was lots of focus on the Sugar Plum Fairies and the beauty of it and all of those components. But after a while, I would feel like I was reading the same essay over and over again. Until one day, a young man wrote an essay and it started, my first role was in the Nutcracker. And I said, oh. And he said, I was the prince and I was anxious because to keep my role, I had to fit in the costume. And I had been experiencing growth spurts. And my ballet instructor said I would lose the role if I had one more growth spurt because it just was not going to be possible for me to continue. I would not fit in the costume. And so it was this reflection on his anxiety and his desire to succeed and this thing that was out of his control. And it just gave me such insight into who he was and how he was finding meaning and how he was coping with a challenge. And he took something that many people had written about. My first experience was the Nutcracker, and really turned it on its head in a way
Hmm.
that was unique to him alone. And so my advice is you will have lots of shared experience. Some of you who are listening may be athletes, and so there may be a moment in a big game that you want to write about. That's also the same moment other people have. Many of you have done community service, and that can be a powerful experience because you may not know what other students experience until you see that for yourself. But you have to be mindful that whoever else went with you on that service trip had those same experiences. So, how do you go into the essay, take the well worn topic, and make it unique? And that's where you fit in.
Well, that's great advice. And it's funny how you mentioned the Nutcracker, and it's a common theme. In your case, you were reading for students that were going to be dance majors. You hear it all the time from reps where they hear about an ACL injury or perhaps someone writing about a grandparent or a family member. These are themes that are very common. But I like how you turned it and gave that example where that particular student really made it his own and made it unique and not like just any other essay. So we really appreciate that. Dr. Peek, and I know that Fordham provides optional supplemental essays for students to consider. Would you recommend completing them? And if so, what are you looking for in those essays that are perhaps not found in other parts of the overall application?
Certainly. So we have not made them required because not every student will need to use them. But for some students, the common application essay is just not enough space for them to shine and to show some element of who they are, what they want to express. And so the recommended essays, or for us, really just questions because they're 150 words. They're not that long. It's just a place for a student to have an opportunity to share something that they couldn't share somewhere else. So we hope that the three choices are different enough that a student can find something, but they're not required to find something to fill that spot if they can meet that need somewhere else. So I see the college application as a series of opportunities. You should not leave any opportunity untaken, but some opportunities will weigh more than others for you because you're a unique individual.
Well, I love how you put that. You see the college application as a series of opportunities, which is so true, right? Every part has its role and each should build on the next. We talk about it all the time without repeating what's already in another section. Otherwise, frankly, it's a missed opportunity. And so I love that. A series of opportunities. Thank you so much. And we talked about it briefly before, but we know that Fordham, like many other schools, is in fact test optional. Dr. P, can you share the percentage of students that apply and who are ultimately admitted that did not submit their test scores?
Absolutely. So in the most recent cycle, 24, 72% of our applicants did not submit testing, and 65% of our applicants who were admitted did not have testing because we are truly test optional. Students do not need it for scholarship, for special program, or for any other consideration. And we are still piloting it, and we renew our test optional commitment each year. And so currently we are test optional through fall 2025.
Oh, we appreciate that. And of course, visiting campus before committing to a school is so important for the student to really get a feel of the campus and surrounding area. Taking tours and spending time on campus are things that can't easily be replicated online. So, Dr. Peak, when a student comes to Fordham, what are the areas that they absolutely should visit? And what are some questions they should be asking to help them determine whether or not Fordham is, in fact, the right fit for them?
Absolutely. And I think everyone knows our structured opportunities are meant to put our best foot forward. So you should absolutely take advantage of information sessions or tours or open houses, especially open houses where you can meet faculty and other members of the community. So that's always a highlight for me. But I also encourage families and students, when you leave our structured portion, you should remain on your own and talk with students you meet on campus unscripted. Walk into the dining hall, see what that's like. Go into the campus center, see what the vibe is. Talk with a faculty member who may be walking, or stop an administrator. But basically, try to get the real authentic feel. Our ambassadors or tour guides, but we call them ambassadors, they are encouraged and strictly told you need to be authentic in your experience and what you share. So if you have something great to share, great. If you had something that maybe wasn't what you expected, that's fine, because we want everyone to have the most authentic experience of Fordham when they're making that decision. So that's why I always encourage, even go beyond that, and listen to your inner self. So sometimes it isn't even about what you're visiting on the campus in terms of the buildings, but stopping and listening to what your inner self is telling you. You will know immediately when you arrive on a campus if it's the place for you. You will
So
also
true.
know immediately, right, if it's
It
not.
is so
So I
true.
have heard stories of students that had their parents drive them hundreds of miles only not to get out.
Right.
These are true stories. And you have to listen to that. No college campus should be treated as the place to go because it was the place for your friend, or you saw it on a movie, or you
Hmm.
learned about it in a book. You have to feel that it's right for you. And so listening to your inner voice is the key.
Well, I appreciate that. Definitely listening to your inner voice, and those visits certainly are really important. If you can't visit, by the way, before applying, you really owe it to yourself before matriculating. We talk about that all the time. And I appreciate you talking about taking advantage of your info sessions and your tours, which leads me to the next question about demonstrated interest. What are some of the things that students do to demonstrate their interest in attending Fordham? And is this something that you track as part of your overall application? And if not, is there ever a time that it might come up? For example, if a student is on the wait list.
Yes, demonstrated interest can be a factor on the margins. So for the majority of students in the admission process, it's not a factor. But when you get to the wait list and times like that, or we may have just a little bit of room and we're looking to see which other students we might be able to fit in, those are the times when it can become important. But we're very careful about that because not everyone can visit. Not everyone has the resources to make it to
Right.
campus. And so we still have virtual options because we know that that's not possible for students. So we weigh virtual options just like an on campus visit option because that's what a family can do. But just sending emails to us or calling us, those are not really meaningful. Of course, we know if you have an email sent to you or if you've opened it, but we're not tracking the hundreds of thousands of
Hmm.
emails that we're sending and what you're doing with them. What's meaningful for us, though, I will tell you, is if we actually come out to your high school and we are using our resources to come see you, come see us. That speaks volumes. There have been many times where meeting a student one on one has made the difference
Wow.
because we just get to see something that we have not had the ability to see. So, again, that's a missed opportunity. So, it's more about what you're not doing. So, if we come out to Syosset High School and make the visit and the room is empty,
Right.
then you've missed the opportunity to meet the person who's going to take your application through the process.
Well, it goes back to what we're saying, right? Each part of the application is, in fact, an opportunity. And same thing here, as you described. If, in fact, you're interested in Fordham University and they happen to come to your high school, make sure you are meeting with the rep, introduce yourself, come up with some questions that perhaps are not so easily found on their website so that you could show off your ability to research and really show off the fact that you want to go there. So we really appreciate that. And what are the different ways a student may apply to Fordham? And is there a benefit to applying one way over the other? And we're talking about, early decision, early action, regular decision. And when I talk about the benefit, I'm asking about benefits both for being admitted, but also for merit based scholarships or financial aid considerations.
Certainly. So I will say across all the rounds that we offer, financial aid and scholarship opportunities are the same.
Great.
But we do have four different rounds, two binding and two non-binding. So we have ED1, November 1, and ED2, January 3rd. Those are options for students where we are in ED1, the number one choice. ED2, we may be maybe number one or number two, or you were just not quite sure and needed a little additional time. But because they're binding and because we do not meet full need for everyone, you should only be applying ED if you're sure you want to come, and financial aid, even though you'll get a package if you complete. It should not be the main factor. So if you need to compare financial aid packages, then don't apply to us ED. That's not what that's meant for. Early action to me is a great way to apply. You get the early decision, non-binding before the Christmas holidays. You get a financial aid package by February 1, but you can let us know by May 1. To me, that's the perfect calendar scenario. Gives you a really long runway to compare packages, gives you the ability to talk about your financial aid award with us, do class visits, do all kinds of things. But if that's not realistic, or if you've really done your best work in the first half of your senior year and you want us to see that, regular decision January 3rd, that's absolutely fine. We are not a school that takes all of our students in early rounds. We have plenty of room in our regular decision round for students who feel like their best foot forward is going to be going regular decision.
Well, we appreciate that. And Dr. Peak, once a student commits to a college, how important is it for them to withdraw from other colleges where they may have been accepted? And can you give us some insight into how difficult the process becomes for you in terms of determining how many students to accept or not from your own wait list when you don't have a final number on how many accepted students are actually attending?
Yes, we have to think about the college application process rather like an ecosystem. So if you commit to a school or double deposit, which is highly discouraged, you've taken away a spot that we might have given to someone else who now does not have that spot. And then if you give it up, that person doesn't have a chance to know, oh, well, that spot's opened up now and I could do that. I could take that spot. So it's important to really make the decision. Now, this is an unusual year with the FAFSA and deadlines were everywhere. But in a traditional year, it's really important to make the decision and try to make the decision that will get you to your September goal by May 1. Because what we want to do over the summer is immediately build affinity and community for you and get you to know us, get you to know your fellow students, get to know upper class students. We want to start doing that in summer. But if you're switching from college to college in those commitments, it makes it harder for you to get started in your best foot at college. And it makes it harder for us then to fill the spots that now have emptied because by the middle of summer, students are really settled. So it's a sense of community when you're a senior. You're not only doing this for yourself, but you're making good choices that don't impact others now.
Well, we appreciate that insight and advice. This has been a phenomenal conversation, Dr. Peak. Before I get to my last question, I just want to ask, is there a question that I didn't ask you or a topic that I didn't bring up that you'd like to leave with us now?
I would say, what are to get back to the visit, what are the types of visits that make the most sense? And I think if you have a college that is nearby to you, you should visit it, even if you're interested in it or not, but maybe just get started by visiting and see what it is about that visitation that appealed to you, what you liked, what you didn't like. And that way, as you're building your college list, you can start to think about, if I can visit this school, what do I want to do? Maybe I'll wait and I'll visit this school when I'm admitted. But you should always take advantage of what's in your backyard. And you also may be surprised if you look at the schools in your backyard. Wow, these are places that I may actually want to go. Most students don't go more than 500 miles from their home.
Right.
And just because you live in maybe perhaps the New York area, let's say, the rest of the world is trying to get to cities like that. And, I always tell students who live in this city, look at the opportunities around you. There's more than 200 colleges in this area. So there's lots to be able to explore without even spending the money and the time to do the distance exploration. Those should come, but really start to use your backyard as an opportunity to learn.
Well, I think that's great advice because exactly when you use your backyard as an opportunity to learn, you learn a lot of things, right? Do you want a big school? Do you want to be close to home? Do you want to be far from home? Do you want to be in that urban environment or what have you? So, yes, it is difficult to travel. Sometimes it's difficult to travel far away to visit colleges because of money. If you're a family that happens to have the money, sometimes it's difficult to travel because of time. Students are in school, they're in sports, parents are obviously working. And so, yes, starting in your own backyard just to get a sense of what you're looking for in a college, I think is tremendous advice. So, Dr. Peak, speaking of advice, what are your top three pieces of advice that you would provide a student and their parents getting ready for the college admissions process?
Absolutely. The number one is keeping the calendar, a shared calendar between the student and the family. It should include deadlines, registration dates for exams, exam dates, both in school and out of school, events, family events, when things are due, as well as the prep time leading up to them. And if you do that, it will lead to my second piece of advice, which is enjoy your senior year.
Hmm.
This shouldn't be a mad dash to get to college. This should be a journey of exploration, of learning, of an enjoyment, where you are learning about yourself, learning about what you want, getting excited about your future, but not at the expense of all of the things that happen in the senior year that will never happen again, and the memories that you will make, and the importance that your academics are really important in that senior year. So if you're just totally focused on the college process, you may not do as well as you want, and you want us to see that. So that's number two. And the final piece of advice is really for families especially. Allow your students to have dream schools and allow them to apply to them, but also have realistic conversations about what's possible and what's not now. You may be surprised, and you may be admitted to a school and be able to afford it, and you didn't think that at the beginning. But the worst conversations that I see are in April with families who have applied, but there is some barrier, and those discussions weren't had. And now they're being had in the most anxious moments. And that's when we're not making good decisions.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So many people report on that where families go through an entire process. The student is fortunate enough to be admitted, only to find out that financially it's not something that the family can afford. So, your point about talking about financial aid, what you can or cannot afford early and often is really so important. But I also like that you talked about keeping a shared calendar. That's something new that we haven't talked about. And I do think that many families do that. If you don't, it's very important, whether it's school events, college visits. Some people even talk about scheduling time, perhaps only once a week, about talking about the college process so that it doesn't overwhelm and take over a family's life as oftentimes it does. And lastly, enjoy your senior year. To your point, if you have that calendar and you do schedule that time, you will hopefully enjoy that senior year, which only comes one time. Dr. Peek, this was awesome. You're awesome. I'm so happy as I know that this is going to help so many students and their parents. I do hope to have you again. Thank you so much.
It was a privilege. Thank you.
Our privilege and honor. And to everyone out there, good luck with the college search. Take care all and best wishes. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the CAP, the College Admissions Process Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please don't forget to tell a friend and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. I am your host, John Durante, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the CAP. Thank you for listening to the College Admissions Process Podcast presented by Prep Expert. Prep Expert offers live online SAT and ACT courses with the best score guarantees, instructors, and curriculum. Go to prepexpert.com to guarantee your child's success.